Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here for another edition of Ask Me Anything. Ask me anything about police abuse, and I'm here to talk about it today. Obviously, what's going on in the country, we all know has to be addressed, and we're not going to stop addressing it. So there's a couple of things right off the bat before I start. Please check out our member programs, check out our merchant below. Buy my book down below. You'll love it, Gangster Redemption. And also join Larry Lawton's Action Crew because we're making changes. So I'm going to jump right into it. And here we are. Ask me anything about police abuse. First question. What's your solution to stopping it? Wow, that's such a broad question. And in this edition, we don't go too deep. But the short answer to ending it is we need to have better police officers in general. Obviously, I'm a big believer in the leadership of law enforcement. When you have a bad leader, you have a bad department. No way around that. If you have a bad leader, you have a bad department. Don't ever forget that. And, you know, a lot of calls are coming for defunding the police or defunding police. And that's unrealistic in my mind. I think what has to happen is the funding has to go towards community policing. And again, I will say this right off the bat for the real help. If we hire police that want to help the community, we will be a lot better off. When you hire people just protected to serve and do cite the bullshit that goes on in policing, you're going to get bad guys that want to come in there and be authoritarian, or they were the guys who were picked on in school. We need officers who want to help the community. Remember what I just said there. If they want to help the community, they should be a police officer. It's the only way. It has to be a calling. It's not a profession. I do believe they need to give them more money as well. Next question. Before you went to prison, did you have any experience with police brutality? Not really. As a criminal, I had a lot of respect, even the cops that caught me. So I can't say that I was ever abused or treated wrongly by police. When we were kids, the cops used to take our money, do this, like when we were playing cards in the street, kick your ass, take you home. But it wasn't abuse. They really did care about us. I looking back, I really respected them now a lot more than what I see going on today. Good question here. Does anyone actually know how common police abuse is and how often they are jailed for it? Hope you have time to answer. Well, I'm going to answer this one. Nobody knows how common it is, and obviously it is more common in black communities. And that's wrong. That's what this is all about. If you don't think it is, then stop that. Not my department, not here. Again, you have to recognize that you have officers that have biases. You have officers that are prejudiced. So they can't even help themselves. And that's got to be weeded out. And that's got to be retrained and retrained and retrained. Sadly, they're not jailed enough. I think if there were more accountability on police who've gone wrong, I think you'd have less police either wanting in the profession that's negative towards people. They wouldn't want to be in there because they know they'll eventually mess up. So I think they're not held accountable enough. And I think it's probably happening more than we know, and I think it all has to change. And it has to change by a dialogue to start. Next question. Of the many changes that could be implemented to solve the issue of police brutality, which one do you think would be the easiest to implement for a run-of-the-mill police department? That's a great question. The easiest one would be to hire the right guys. But in the immediate, the single number one thing they can do is, if the chief isn't right, you're done. So the city's got to get rid of the chief. If the chief is right and he cares, he's got to implement community policing in the right way. And if they ever want to call me, I'll show them how to do it. And they think they know. That's another thing that bothers me. Some police chiefs think they're all-knowing. Well, they're not. Just like I'm not. And as I tell any chief, I can be educated. I hope you can. Next question. Did you feel safe around police in prison, or did you feel they were more of a danger and didn't care about you? Well, in prison, they call guards cops. That's what we call them. Hey, the cops are coming, or whatever. I was abused by cops in prison. I was strapped down naked, beaten, pissed on. A guard took his penis out and peed on my face and spit on. Do I think they're worse than the inmates? Absolutely. I know what I'm facing when I'm facing the inmate. Another convict, I know what I'm facing. He could be a psychopath, and I know what I'm facing. Guards that are bad that really worried me. You didn't know if that door opens what they're gonna do to you. And I had that experience. So anybody who tells you, oh, they're all good guys, they want to help, and don't get me wrong, there are good guards that saved my life. I often say that, and there were guards that did that. So but was I in fear? Absolutely. And abuse is happening every day in prison. Next question. Do you think that tear gas and rubber bullets are also police abuse? No. Not used in the right way and on a looter, on people who are doing something. On a protester? Yes. Protesting is our First Amendment right. We have the right to assemble. We have the right to grieve our issues with our government in a peaceful way. If a cop is using tear gas or even rubber bullets on peaceful protesters, that's abuse. But if it's on looters and people who are unrest, that's a whole different story. And that has to stop. You can't be throwing bottles and rocks and things at cops and expect nothing to happen. I wouldn't accept it. If you threw it at me, I wouldn't accept it. Now, I think if I threw it at you, you wouldn't accept it. So that's the difference. That's the difference right there. Do you think the entire situation around George Floyd and his death have gone far or no? No. I love that they're protesting. Hear what I just said? Protesting. I don't like civil unrest. I don't like looting, and I don't like the people hijacking the situation. And right now and lately, nobody has. But I am glad people are bringing attention to an issue that I have bringing an attention to since I got out of prison. I got out of prison in 2007, and I've been bringing attention to this issue for a long time. Now, with my YouTube platform, I want to keep doing it. Please, right up here, look in the corner, join Larry Lawton's action crew, because it's starting. It's been starting. I didn't start it, but we're going to continue it. We're going to help. We're not only going to help Black Lives Matter, we're going to help policing in general and get the losers out of office who are not supporting the right things. And we're going to get the police chiefs who don't want this philosophy to be the right philosophy out of the jobs they belong in. They don't belong in, because they're the problem. Law enforcement leadership is the problem when you see a department run amok. That's the problem. Do you think anything is going to change in a big way, and how do you think it's going to look? This time I really do believe something's going to change. The whole country, the whole world is outraged on what's been going on in law enforcement. Again, the big change I do see coming is the way we hire cops, and I hope that changes. And fund them. I think the funding of police has to change. I don't think they should be funded for tanks and this and their command posts that do all of this crap that's never used in most departments. How about putting that money towards community policing in the right way? And I think that's the big thing too. I don't think police agencies are doing community policing in the right way. And if we don't teach the leaders, if the leaders don't want to know, they're wrong. That's where I blame leadership. Leadership's got to seek out the individuals that can help them. If they don't, then they're not a leader, because you're not all-knowing. Neither am I. But I might know something you don't. I know more about what's going on inside a prison than you do. And a police chief does. I know what it's like to feel handcuffs on me and have my liberty taken away. Chief of police doesn't. Cop doesn't. I could tell him how that feels. What's going on through that guy's mind. That's the difference. Next question. What causes people in law enforcement industry to want to abuse in the first place? I don't think there's anybody per se who wants to abuse. I think law enforcement is hiring the wrong people. They're hiring people who get authority and want to show that authority and be that guy. And they're taught in the academies, take control. They take it to another level and it does become abuse. But But I don't think there's, it's just I think it's the profession and the way they hire people. So I'm not saying it's, obviously there are great cops and good people out there, like in any profession. I think there's a percentage of people that are bad in every profession, and cops are no different than any profession. They need to be changed, though. Obviously, it's got to stop. Next question. When a cop kills someone, what excuse do they tell to the chief? Well, obviously, it's not telling to the chief anyone. It's telling to a judge or telling to a court, because you should be charged. I often wonder when cops abuse somebody, when they go back and they're asked what happened. Right then and there, if they lie even a little, they should be fired. Not fired, they should be prosecuted. Again, giving a person the authority to take another person's liberty or life is such a great responsibility that we are wrong as a society by not demanding we hire better people. Because if you hire the person who's got the heart, that won't happen. That's the difference. We don't need the bullies being hired, and that's what's happening. You have bullies being hired. And let's face it, some cops are bullies. And that's wrong. Next question. What is the best justice towards police brutality? And why do police get so many penalties but no punishments? That's a great question for the chiefs. Why do you hire a guy that's got so many reprimands in his file and he comes from another department? How well did you really deep and get into that guy's file? I'll tell you, if I'm a police chief today, I wouldn't hire a guy with one problem. Unless it's a mistake. What was it? Of course, every case is different. But when you have a guy with 18, like this police officer Chauvin does, come on. How can you tell me that guy should have been a cop? Here's the real kicker to that. He was training the other guys. Figure that out. He was training the other guys. You know what that shows me? That the command leadership in that police department was not following up on the complaints. Because you can't have that many complaints and they're all wrong. You can't. It's just no way. And the problem is the leadership just dropped the ball. If you're a police chief and you're coming into the department, the first thing I would do is I would get the records of every police officer that's going to be under my command. And truth of the matter, I'd get rid of the ones that shouldn't be cops. Is there issues with unions and stuff? That's a problem in policing. It's a big problem in policing. We're not talking about a union construction worker. We're not talking about a union mailman. We're talking about a guy who could take your liberty. And the union's got to be real careful. And I know union leaders. And I hope they're being careful because it's wrong. It's dead wrong. And they should be telling their membership that. Or not accepting as a member. And maybe that'll stop the situation. Here's a great question. Do you agree with the idea that police should not investigate other police, but there should be a separate department? Absolutely. I live in a county that the sheriff of this county stopped the Florida Department of Law Enforcement from investigating a police shooting. Not the city I live in, mind you. The city that I live in, the police chief told me, if there is any kind of shooting, whether it's bodily harm or not, where there's anybody involved, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which is a totally entity of itself, comes in out of the city and investigates that incident. Totally independent of that department. That's the way to do it. Next question. Do you think police shouldn't have as many weapons? That's a good question. I don't believe police need to have tanks, armored vehicles, any of this crap. No, I don't think they should be the Army. I think there's different things. You see these little departments and you go by their police station, their yard, and I've literally seen a tank in a police department yard with the police logos on and all. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You think you need a tank against your citizens? Well, then you're doing everything wrong. You're doing everything wrong. I don't think they need armor like that. I really don't. I think if you got a situation that bad, you need the military. And I haven't seen that. I think police need to be more community minded, which is less Less of that, more of this. The tongue. Next question. Do you think most of them are getting a bad rap for just doing their job? That's a great question. I think the good ones get a bad rap. But here's my problem with the good ones. Do you know who the bad ones are? Have you witnessed any kind of abuse by another officer? And if you didn't and you didn't report it, we have a problem. Here's what we need to build. We need to build a culture within law enforcement that it's the right thing to do to get those guys out of the job. It is the right thing to do to go and report that cop who's doing the abuse or whatever you saw, because every cop, and I think most of them have seen it. I think that's the culture that has to change. You know, it's kind of disturbing what happened in Buffalo when these cops actually quit after two of their guys got suspended. If that was me, I don't know the whole situation, but I can tell you what, I would pull all their law enforcement credentials. You want to quit and tell me you can only do certain jobs? Then you're not a law enforcement officer in this community. You're going to do what we need you to do. And if you're not willing to do that, then you don't belong in law enforcement anywhere. That's a big problem with law enforcement. A big problem with law enforcement is this. Law enforcement officers do something bad in one department and they go to another department. How is that? How can they do that and get away with that? That blows me away. Cops shouldn't be allowed to get reprimanded, written up, doing something, have so many infractions. This cop that killed George Floyd had 18 reprimands in his file. 18! How is that guy a cop? I don't get it. Blows me away. That cop shouldn't be a cop anywhere. And that's the problem. Cops can't be able to jump from department to department with negativity in their record. And if they do have something negative and it wasn't reported, then that chief or those supervisors should be fired or should be held accountable. If he goes to another department because you didn't want to do it because you're a good guy and you want to keep him. I get it. You don't want to hurt a person who has a job. This is not a job. Policing is a profession that has to come with passion and for wanting to help the community. And you're not helping any community if you're the supervisor who is letting another cop go to another department. That can't happen, and that's the problem. Last question. How many innocent people probably have been abused by an out-of-control police officer in this country, and when they tried to report it to the Internal Affairs, were laughed off or simply refused to be heard? Sadly, too many. Sadly, you're right. I said it. And sadly, you see it in smaller towns. You see it. A video I just did years ago, we're redoing now. And it's from a former FBI agent and undercover operative who went into a police station in Florida and found that either the lieutenant or the chief of police was a KKK. Just think what I said. How would you like to see a badge on that man? And that has happened. So it's out there, guys. And you're going to see that video. And I interviewed that man. And it was from way back. I've been for police reform. I've been for police accountability since I got out of prison in 2007. In fact, I've been for the right things to be done since I was in prison, when I was fighting for the deaths of my fellow inmates and the abuses of going on with me. I am all for positive police, but all against the negative. And right now, it blows me away to see these cops who are literally on camera still doing abuses. If I had hair, I'd pull it out. I don't get it. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So, I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a topic that's not going away. I have another great video coming up to Thursday. And it is about a man who died in the jail where I live. They put him in a restraint chair. Boy, this one's getting me nervous already. and he died, and they will not release the video. How's that? They will not release the video. Well, this is our first call to Larry Lawton's action crew. Stay tuned. That one's coming. Thanks for listening, everybody. You know how much I love my audience, my YouTube family. Check out the links below. We always have good stuff in those links. Please, please join Larry Lawton's action crew. Please subscribe. And everybody, let's keep fighting for what's right. You know? Let's keep fighting for what's right. I have a lot of respect for everybody out there. And if you're a good officer, I have a lot of respect for you too. I really stay safe out there. So everybody have a great day. Stay safe. Exercise your right to protest, not loot. Police, stay safe as well. Treat people and want to help them. And you're going to have a supporter in me for the rest of your life. Have a great day, everybody. God bless. Stay safe.